No, I got a good one here.
Thank you.
That's super not sweet. Anyway, what year are you?
Freshman.
Freshman. How'd you end up here?
I'm from Chicago. I don't know, I wanted to go out of state, I wanted to go far. And like, this is a really good engineering program, and it's not that expensive.
So my question to you is, what are you running from? What's your favorite place to eat on campus?
Smooth.
Coming up on UCF Nightly News, SpaceX new capsule just landed on Earth. Find out this historic mission.
Plus, a first look into a new course tackling the opioid epidemic.
And later, we'll tell you all you need to know to stay safe during spring break.
In sports, find out how the Knights pulled off a win against the 20th ranked Cincinnati Bearcats.
Nightly News starts now. Good afternoon and welcome to Nightly News. I'm Nick Santiago.
And I'm Zach Winicky. Today is Friday, March 8th, 2019.
SpaceX made history today. This morning, the SpaceX Dragon capsule landed in the Atlantic Ocean. This is the first demonstration launch for the Dragon. The capsule spent a total of 7 days in space. The capsule is equipped with about 400 pounds of crew supplies and a test dummy to represent a human passenger. SpaceX originally designed it to carry humans. NASA Commercial Crew Program Deputy Manager Steve Stitch says the launch was a great dress rehearsal for Demo 2. The next Dragon launch will include live human passengers.
For the first time in 3 years, the SGA presidential elections did not end in a runoff. Kyler Madison won the presidential election Thursday night. Nightly News reporter Carolina Tessuto shares with us how election night played out.
Emotions ran high as Kyler and Madeline were declared winners with around 55% of the vote.
I don't think that there was honestly anything running through my mind at that moment. I was just in total shock. Still in shock, to be completely honest. So
I don't feel like any of it's real. I think this has just been a far-off dream in the back of our minds.
Ashley and Darwin got around 26% of the vote. Antoine and Darby received around 19%. Current SGA President Josh Bologna says he would have been satisfied with the results regardless of the winner.
I was going to be happy with whoever won. The 5 out of the 6 people were part of our cabinet, so we know that they've definitely learned from our goods, from our mistakes, so they have that advantage.
Even though they lost the election, Ashley and Darwin are going to continue being involved on campus.
Me and Ashley, we're both just very passionate people. We'll just find something else. We're both psychology majors, IO psychology. You know, we're just kind of looking towards the future, essentially, what we can do to impact our campus.
Film major Michelle Hung is happy that one of her passions is included within Kyler and Madeline's platform points.
I'm really glad to hear that their platform is like they want to give back to the arts too, because the arts is such like an important part of like our culture as a nation. Like we're not just robots. Like the arts is like what makes us human.
In the previous 3-ticket race, the results called for a runoff election. In Orlando, Carolina Tessuto with UCF Nightly News.
The Josh and Jad administration will begin transitioning to the Kyler and Madeline administration in April. Kyler and Madeline will start their term towards the end of the academic year.
Updated numbers for voter turnout have been released following this past week of elections. Late Wednesday night, SGA officials announced the winners. Kyler Gray and Madeline Mills won president and vice president with 55% of the votes, but the amount of voters this year was less than years before. Only 8,373 people took to the polls this year, a 6.9% decrease from 2018's 9,000 voters. Campaign volunteers say there's one reason behind the shortage.
I think a lot of people aren't coming just because of the fact that it's a gloomy day. They're trying to stay indoors as much as possible. They don't want to be outside. I think that's why.
Peralta says even though it was a pretty cold week, volunteers worked through the conditions to get results. And starting in May, Kyler and Madeline will start their terms as president and vice president.
Only 13% of engineers are women. This number may be growing steadily, but not as fast as some might expect. Nightly News reporter Shania Richburg tells us how one UCF student feels about being a part of this statistic.
care if there's nobody else doing it. If you want to do it, go for it.
That's what one female engineering student had to say to women interested in engineering. These marbles represent the number of students currently enrolled in the engineering program. 1 of 4 are women. Despite the lack of female peers, senior Hannah Kowatli does not let that affect her.
I do feel like if I make a mistake, then sometimes it's like brushed over, like, oh, she's a girl. And I don't like that, but I feel like if you're confident in the way that you speak, then that stops, regardless of your gender.
LinkedIn released a 2018 study on women's progression in the workplace. According to the report, there is significant growth in women pursuing STEM careers, but not as quickly as some might expect. Dr. Caitlin Crawford is an assistant professor in the Department of Materials Science Engineering at UCF. Here's what she had to say about this slow-moving process.
What we really need to do is to start from a really young age. We need to instill this in all genders from the get-go. Let them know about the history and give them a sense of awareness for, inclusion from the very beginning.
Reporting in Orlando, Shania Richburg, UCF Nightly News.
If you would like to learn more about female engineers on campus, email UCF's Society of Women Engineers at swe.ucf@gmail.com.
This month is Women's History Month, and today is International Women's Day, honoring women all around the world. Today we are honoring one very special UCF faculty member. Shania, who are we honoring today?
Thanks, Nick and Zach. That's right, it is National Women's History Month. This week, we are shining light on one of UCF's theater professors, Holly McDonald. McDonald is also a Women in Gender Studies faculty affiliate. Before becoming a professor, McDonald worked in Washington, D.C. and abroad as a performer, director, and instructor. She uses her performance background to fight for social change in her classroom. Some of her courses include Theater for Social Change, Diversity in Theater, and Queer Theater. McDonald is the first UCF theater faculty member to create content and instruct a completely web-based theater course. She is also a secular safe zone participant, giving students who are atheists or questioning their faith a safe place to talk. If you want to get involved with International Women's Day festivities, be sure to check out events in your local area, wear purple, or use the social media hashtag International Women's Day. Tune in next week to see who we will be highlighting next month for Women's History Month Spotlight. Back to you, Nick and Zach.
UCF is adding a new master's program next year. Starting in the fall, students can earn a master's in integrated business. This integrated business master's program is one of a kind here at UCF. This program will only admit students who have a bachelor's degree in a non-business related field. Dr. Gilkison says often students get to graduation and don't know whether to continue with their major or how to find a job in that field. With this new program, students will learn the foundations of the business world. The 30 credit hour program will enroll a maximum of 60 students. The students will enter together in the fall and graduate together in the summer.
UCF will be offering a new bachelor's degree this fall. The new bachelor's degree will be in materials science and engineering. U.S. News & World Report's best graduate programs in 2019 ranked the MSc program in the top 50 in the nation. Materials science and engineering ranges in subject areas such as space, defense, electronics, energy, and biomedicine. Students will have a complete knowledge of uses for all engineering systems. This degree is given to undergraduate students. The classes for this degree will meet face-to-face, and UCF hopes this new degree will help graduates find jobs. Walking in today, it looked like picture-perfect weather outside.
It did. Dylan, can you tell us about the conditions outside?
Thanks, Nick and Zach. Yeah, the weather conditions outside right now look pretty nice. Temperatures around 76 degrees. Humidity is about 42%. We have winds coming out of the southeast at 8 miles per hour and only a 2% chance for rain. So if you have any outdoor plans today, it's looking good for you. Stay tuned because all of your 5-day forecasts and the highs and lows across the state coming up later in the show. Back to you guys at the desk.
Next on UCF Nightly News, see how UCF's College of Medicine is combating opioid addiction.
Plus, learn more about new research with HIV and transgender patients.
Even though there have been major developments about HIV development and prevention, some communities are still suffering. Nightly News reporter Rachel DeChico tells us more about how HIV continues to be an issue for transgender women.
From the CDC show transgender women have the highest HIV rates out of any other group in the nation, but they are the least likely to seek help or treatment.
It's getting out of hand, and that's why I feel the girls need to step up and get tested, because once you get tested, if you are non-reactive to the virus, you can get into care for PrEP, and once you take PrEP once a day and using condoms, the risk goes down.
This is especially concerning to some in the LGBTQ community, mainly because today HIV is a condition that can be easily treated and managed. Most clinics even offer free HIV screenings. And getting an HIV test is actually extremely easy. All it takes is a single prick, and then in 15 minutes, you have your results. There are many reasons why transgender patients forgo seeking treatment. Percy Crabtree has spoken publicly on the issue and says many times discrimination plays a role.
You're trans and you also have HIV, and we have a lot of misconceptions about what HIV is, so it kind of makes you like that double gross, if that makes sense. So nobody wants to be involved with you, nobody wants to touch you.
Health officials say getting tested for HIV regularly is an important part of keeping yourself and your partners healthy. In Orlando, Rachel DeChico, UCF Nightly News.
Miracle of Love and the Stafford House offer free HIV screenings Monday through Friday. All you need is a valid state ID.
UCF's College of Medicine is taking its opioid overdose curriculum to the next level. Nightly News reporter Nick Santiago tells us more about what they're doing.
The opioid epidemic is one that affects many nationwide. Here in Orange County, it's no different. According to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, about 21 to 29% of patients prescribed opioids misuse them. Here at UCF's College of Medicine, they're teaching their students not only to treat opioid overdose, but to give them the proper treatment to fight this addiction. The College of Medicine started the opioid curriculum a few years ago to help their students understand and treat this drug abuse. Since then, the program has tried to add something new every year. Professors want to make sure students get the proper tools to help diagnose their patients in the field.
There's apps for prescriptions and dosages. There's apps for determining what the appropriate dosage is. There's just about an app for everything. And so we really want to encourage students to take advantage of those resources. Besides apps, the program also offers simulations to its students. The simulations are usually for 3rd and 4th year medical students. They're supposed to give the students a more real-life situation, like the one Dr. Martin Klafke recently came up with.
You're on an airplane flying home, and the pilot asks if there's a doctor on board. And they have to go in, and when they go in, it's arranged sort of like a airplane with the seats and such, and they're confronted with somebody that's found down. As much as the opioid program focuses on how to treat and prescribe those drugs, it also teaches students how to help their patients and their families learn about the drug, get help, and stay clean. In Orlando, Nick Santiago, UCF Nightly News.
Dr. Klafke and one of his colleagues were invited to a conference in Washington, D.C. They were invited to talk with other doctors around the country to help other curriculums improve teaching about opioids. And coming up next on UCF Nightly News, how to protect your skin from the dangerous UV rays this spring break.
And later, stay tuned for our 5-day weather forecast. Spring break is here with no homework, some bright rays, and friends by your side. Most students are headed into the week worry-free and ready for fun. However, Nightly News reporter Tanisha Breidenbach warns us of a major problem students need to be on the lookout for.
Shannon Harper is ready for spring break. However, there is one thing she's keeping in mind going into the week.
Well, I have a history of skin cancer in my family, so the importance of sunscreen has always been really big in my family, and everybody's always talked about it.
While Harper is aware of the effects of the sun, some students are not.
Not that often. I get to the beach and then I do it once probably.
However, the sun is one of the biggest dangers students should be aware of. On average, the sun's ultraviolet rays can damage skin in just 15 minutes, according to the CDC. While students may be looking to catch some fresh rays, Executive Director of Student Health Services, Michael Dyken, offers a word of warning.
Well, our skin never forgets the solar radiation which we're exposed to throughout life.
In order to promote sun protection, the health center encourages students to utilize sunscreen.
While many people know to wear sunscreen outside to protect yourself, there are other ways people can also stay protected from harmful UV rays, such as wearing a hat.
And there's clothing that any clothing is going to create a barrier. There are special clothing lines that are designed for UV protection as well.
Dyken says other factors students should consider is the time of day one is in the sun and the amount of exposure or UV rays. However, he does say that students can still be cautious and have fun.
You can be safe and have a good time. You can be outdoors and be safe.
Reporting in Orlando, Tanisha Breidenbach, UCF Nightly News.
To stay safe during the week, check the UV ray index for your location at EPA.gov. Speaking of ways to stay safe, Tanisha Breidenbach gives us more information on about making the most of your spring break. Tanisha?
Thanks, Nick and Zach. Spring break kicks off today for UCF students. Whether you plan on traveling somewhere sunny or staying right here in the city beautiful, here are some key tips everyone needs to keep in mind to make the most of their spring break. First and foremost, hydration is key. Make sure you're staying hydrated and drinking plenty of water. According to reports, dehydration plagues about 75% of people. So make sure you keep a water bottle handy if you want to keep the fun going strong. Another thing to keep in mind, as mentioned earlier, is to protect your body. Use sunscreen, hats, and sunglasses to protect your skin and eyes from those harmful UV rays of the sun. You might want to use SPF clothing. Another thing to keep in mind is knowing your limits. If you are of age, choose to drink, listen to your body and know when you're approaching your alcoholic limits. Always use a designated driver. In any case, it's also important to remember that in the case of an emergency, be sure to call 911 if you're staying in the States. Other things that you should keep in mind are not to leave a drink unattended, be aware of your surroundings, and be careful what you post on social media. A good time can still be a safe time. And that's all the time I have for now. Be sure to stay safe and have fun during spring break nights. Back to Nick and Zach at the desk.
Hopefully the skies stay clear like they've been for most of this week.
Yeah, as of right now, it's looking good outdoors and the conditions are holding up. Dylan, what can you tell us about the conditions going into the first few days of spring break?
Thanks, Nick and Zach. Yeah, let's take a look at your highs from across the state first. Up in Tallahassee, the state capital, we have a high of 74. In Jacksonville, we have a high of 77. Here in Orlando, we have a high of 79 degrees. And in Tampa, 80 degrees. Now down south in Miami, we have a high of 77 degrees. Now let's take a look at your lows for today. In Tallahassee, we have a low of 55 degrees, and in Jacksonville, a low of 56 degrees. Here in Orlando, we have a low of 59 degrees, and in Tampa, a low of 61. And down south in Miami, we have a low of 72 degrees, Now let's take a look at your 5-day forecast that starts with spring break. On Saturday, we have a high of 82 degrees with a low of 65 degrees, only a 10% chance for rain, so outdoor plans there are looking good. On Sunday, a high of 87 degrees and a low of 67 with only an 8% chance for rain. And on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we have a high chance for rain at 13%, and the high for those 3 days is 87 degrees with a low of 63 degrees. So it looks like you're going to have some pretty nice weather for this upcoming spring break. Nick, Zach, back to you guys at the desk.
Next on UCF Nightly News, Men's basketball is ranked for the first time in 8 years. Find out how they played in their first game since the ranking.
Plus, after a thrilling 13-inning game, see how the Knights are preparing for a 3-game series against Penn State this weekend.
Good afternoon, Knights fans. I'm Erin Harris. Let's see what's happening with UCF sports this week. UCF is all smiles after a win against Cincinnati. The Knights enter history books in multiple ways with their 58-55 win against the Bearcats. The team won against its second straight game, a ranked opponent for the first time in program history. UCF also entered the 23-win threshold, the most in a single regular season in the D1 era. 4 seniors celebrated their final game at CFE Arena, and none had more of an impact than guard B.J. Taylor, scoring a team high of 22 points in the win.
I was just going possession at a time, and just trying to do whatever it took for us to win the game, honestly. And, I'm just thankful for my teammates for putting the ball in my hands and, allowing me to, to do what I do.
The Knights play their final regular season game tomorrow against Temple in Philadelphia. Tip-off is at 4 p.m. UCF baseball is off to a hot start, winning the 9 of their first 12 games. After beating Ball State in a 13-game, the Knights are taking on Penn State in a 3-game series this weekend. UCF faces off against the Penn State Nittany Lions. This could be a tough task for the Knights, who are now without several key pitchers in their bullpen due to injury. The Knights are relying on players like Tyler Osick, Chandler Robertson, and Ray Alejo to stay hot at the plate. This series starts today at 6 p.m. The Apollos are also back in action this weekend when they travel to Birmingham to take on the Iron. This game features the 2 top teams in the AAF, with the Apollos undefeated and the Iron at 3-1. Orlando comes into this game with the highest scoring offense in the league, led by quarterback Garrett Gilbert, who leads the league in passing. The Iron, on the other hand, features a stout defense and former Alabama standout Trent Richardson, who leads the league in rushing TDs. Last week, the Apollos won a close battle against Salt Lake in the snow, while the Iron are coming off of their first loss of the season to San Antonio. Kickoff is set for 2 p.m. That's all we have for sports today. Back to Nick and Zach at the desk.
That's all our time for right now. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can always keep up with us during the week on our Twitter at UCF Nightly News.
And if you've got a story you want us to hear about, send it our way. You can reach us at nightlynews@ucf@gmail.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.